what does that mean to you as an author, creating a fictional world where that world now exists in multiple forms? And then, you know, and of those multiple forms, I'm particularly curious to know what you think about the fan forms, fan rewritings, appropriations, remixing. So what does it mean for you as an author? And Tom, for you, when George is done, the question I have for you is, what does it mean for you as a publisher? What does it mean for publishing as an industry where now, you know, the text is not the only version, that, you know, amongst all these other circulations and media productions?
Well, it's been an interesting experience, to say the least. I mean, when most of my career writing books like The Armageddon Rag and Fever Dream and Dying in Light before that, or all of my short stories, there was no secondary rights, there was no subsidiary rights. Occasionally I would get a movie option, you know, most of which just paid me some money and they held the rights for a year or two and then you'd never see a movie or something. I did occasionally get something filmed. My novella Night Flyers was made into a film at one point. I had a story called Remembering Melody that became an episode of The Hitchhiker. So occasionally something came through, but there were no other rights beside that. But then when Game of Thrones started becoming popular, Song of Ice and Fire, suddenly I started getting these offers that I had never had before from various people who wanted to do replica swords or miniature figurines or, you know, various types of games, role-playing games, paper and pen role-playing games, and video games, and just a bewildering number of things. And I remember having through a period where I said, well, I don't know if I want to take any of these things. Some of them seem kind of tawdry. You know, I'm a serious writer. You know, would F. Scott Fitzgerald have ever had bobblehead dolls? And then I thought about it a little. I said, you know, from what I know of F. Scott Fitzgerald, he would have sold bobblehead dolls in a minute if they offered him any money for that. So he and Zelda could have continued to party. So I signed these various contracts, and I think they've been good and bad things about it. You know, I didn't want to be just a guy who signs a contract, cashes the check. I wanted to make sure that if I was going to do these products, that they were good products, that they were true to the material. So initially, I wrote in a lot of approvals to all of these things, that they could do the game or they could do the whatever it is, but I would have to approve everything. And that sounds good in theory, but of course what it led to me spending a lot of time approving stuff, and not only approving, but giving notes on stuff. And I was probably a little obsessive about it at first, and it wound up taking a lot of my time. So I still don't want to let crappy products get out there, but I have pulled back a little on the approvals now that I know some of my licensees and who I can trust and who I can't trust. But the good part is that I discovered that there's an enormous synchronicity here, because my readership started to build from people coming in from other avenues saying, I'd never heard of your series, but I played the role-playing game, and I loved the role-playing game. I thought I'd better look up the books, or, you know, I collected miniature figures and paint them, and I saw your figures that Dark Sword was doing, and then I decided I'd better look up the books. So I was getting new readers from all of these things. It did cause a bit of a bump, you know, with the HBO deal, which came along a few years later, because, you know, customarily when you sell the rights to a TV or film company, they get all the merchandising rights. So HBO was saying, well, here's the deal, and we get all the merchandising rights. I said, I can't give you all the merchandising rights. I've already sold it to these other people. And what do you mean? We always get all the merchandising rights. And, you know, it wound up for a time that looked like the whole deal was going to fall apart, because, you know, even if I wanted to give them the merchandising rights, I couldn't, because I had pre-existing contracts. But thankfully, my lawyers and agents were finally able to iron that out. But it was a ludicrous negotiation at a point where it's saying, yes, we'll give you keychains, but we keep bobblehead dolls. You're going through all of that with the agent.
And
now that HBO is going, of course, I still have the old contracts that are grandfathered in, that are still direct to me, but everything that's not under contract went to HBO. So now there's just a flood of merchandising coming out because nobody knows how to merchandise like a television network or a film studio. So there are new products coming out all the time, including some I never would have thought, like our own beer. I mean, it's great. We have our own beer. It's terrific.
What do you think